the best of the underground. Make madness your ritual.
Oh, yeah. What's happening, folks? How you doing? Ritual Madness Podcast, episode 256. I hope you are doing well on this Friday evening. 7:37 here in the Twin Cities. It is snowing like a mad dog outside, or at least it was, blowing crazy and acting crazy. This whole week was cold as a motherfucker, and I hope you were keeping yourself warm. Hope you had a good week and you were celebrating on this Friday in your nice warm house and staying in this weekend and taking care of yourselves. Hopefully everybody is healthy and doing well. I appreciate y'all joining me. Do me a favor, check out Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated Custom Screen Printing, antibroadcasting@gmail.com, 612-836-9488. If you're looking to get some some screen printing work done, give those guys a shout. Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated Custom Screen Printing. Again, that's antibroadcasting at gmail.com or 612-836-9488. Give them a shout. Tell them I sent you. Hopefully they will get things done for you. I know lots of folks here in the Twin Cities have used those guys, and nationally too. Touring bands have used Anti-Broadcasting for years, and they're fantastic dudes. Also, if you're looking to get tattooed, check out Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective, 612-353-4755, lowbrowsaints at gmail.com. Jason joins me, the owner of Lowbrow Saints, joins me periodically with the Donkey Show we do here. Matt Wolford and myself and Jason get together and act like a couple chuckleheads and have a good time. And hopefully you've watched or listened or checked one of those out. But again, check out Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective, 612-353-4755, lowbrowsaints at gmail.com. If you're joining me, you probably know who my guest is already. Mr. Mike Bloodfist, Endless Rain, bassist and vocalist, and all-around fantastic fella. Yeah, man. How you doing, Mike? Did you unmute yourself?
I did unmute myself. I'm
awesome.
good.
Awesome, man. It's good to see you, dude. So
yeah,
you took off to another state, North Carolina, correct?
Correct. Yep. North Carolina, Jacksonville.
Now, was it the cold? Was it what was it that made you guys just pack up and head on out?
Yeah. So back in January of 2021, my wife met with a doctor, and so she has cleft palate, and essentially she was having some issues. And for those who don't know what cleft palate is, it's basically a lot of folks are born without a roof to the inside of their mouth. So if you take your tongue and kind of stick it up there, you feel something. Well, she didn't have anything there essentially when she was born. So it's something that she has struggled with her entire life and has had multiple surgeries on. And it sort of kind of came to, a climax in early January. And so we went to the doctors and we said, hey, what are our options here? And they sat us down and they said, well, you see, Minnesota is getting drier. It kind of experiences, you get dry cold, you get the dry heat as well. And we tried using humidifiers. We tried doing all those different types of ideas, and it just wasn't working for us. And so the doctor said, okay, well, here's the other solution. And that is, you need to move to a warmer climate, and one that produces more humidity. Yeah. So he basically said, anywhere that's near the coast would do. I mean, you can technically be in, Alaska if you wanted to be, but you just got to be by the coast where it's humid. So that kind of told us, well, we unfortunately we have to move. And you would think Minnesota, right, land of 10,000 lakes, that you would have humidity pretty frequently there. But yet, again, there were quite extensive spells, especially this past year that where it was just too dry. So we ended up going to North Carolina.
Wow, yeah, we barely had any rain last year, hardly. There was lots of drying up lakes, man. Real big beach areas and things like that. So moving down there, how is the family doing? How's everybody getting acclimated to it? And is she responding well to being close to the coast and the nice weather?
I can definitely say I do not miss the negative 25 degrees you guys are experiencing. That is for sure. So, the weather, obviously a huge plus. So we are adjusting very, very well. That being said, I will say, obviously living in Minnesota for 35 years, the body gets used to kind of going into the cold around December and January. So it'll be interesting, but I'll walk outside kind of like full, like got my coat on, everything. I'm like, all right, let's do this. It's, it's Christmas. And you walk out there and you're like, oh, okay, I'm taking the coat off. I'm taking whoa, and it's just because you start sweating, it's 75 degrees, and so that takes some time to get used to as well. Actually, just the fact that, again, you can go outside and you can enjoy that and it's not freezing cold. Right. But the body thinks it is. You're just like, oh, I'm cold. But you go outside and you're like, no, I'm warm. What is going on? The body's confused. Yeah. So
and no snow there, right? No snow. You haven't seen any snow.
Not yet.
And so Christmas had to have been a little different for you guys, huh?
Yep. Very true. It certainly was. Sometimes they get snow here. It's not frequent.
Sure.
But cold weather does happen. Even today, we actually got freezing rain today. So it's about 25 degrees, which I think is about summertime for you guys right now, and how you feel out there.
Yeah.
You'd be out there with just, a tank top on and some swim shorts and be like, all right, it's 25, let's do it.
Yeah,
Woo!
dude, you're not lying. We almost hit 40 just before, like yesterday it was freezing cold, right? So, and today, this morning, and it kind of warmed up a little bit, but the day before it was like almost 40 degrees. So it felt like it was summer, man. It felt like spring, and I was like, yeah, and you get, your body gets excited, like you get more energy going. Yes, it's nice and warm outside, but knowing the following day is in the minuses, and then the following morning is in the minuses, and every year here in Minnesota, you just prepare for it. It's like you bring your big jackets out, all your gloves, all your scarves, everything that you can, like extra stuff. You put it in the car. You make sure that if something happens, you're covered. I want to say Darkwing, Minnesota. I'm assuming that would be Donnie Darko jumped in the chat saying, "What's up, fellas? What's happening, man? Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for dropping in the chat. Appreciate it very much. Don't forget to say what's up to Mike here. If you have any questions for Mike as well, drop them in there, and I'll try to sneak them in here while we're doing this. Now, so you guys are getting acclimated to it. The wife is doing better. Now, what is the average temperature down there normally about this time?
Oof. We are in a bit of a heat wave. That is true. So when we moved down here, they did say that the temperature generally is colder. So you would say like probably on average, maybe 30 degrees to 40 degrees. Their winter starts in February. So even in Minnesota, right? Like February is the coldest, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
right.
It's one of the months you hate the most. And here, I guess it's kind of the same. They get down overnight. Sometimes you'll get into the teens. So you might be in like, as my boss would say, 11 degrees would be very, very cold. But other than that, like it's usually, the teens overnight, and then the daytime, they usually get back up into the 30s. So 30s is pretty consistent, I would say, during their winters.
Okay.
If they do get snow, again, usually they don't, but I think it's like every third year or something like that, they'll get a little bit of a snow, which is about a foot. And everything shuts down, though.
Right.
I mean, nothing's open.
Now that's what you were saying about today too, right? Because of the freezing rain, they're just not prepared for it, so they shut everything down real early. Or do they
correct everything?
Do they just completely shut it all down? Like nobody's open, nobody's moving. Yeah, that's so crazy.
I think what they said is that they have like one snowplow for the entire state.
Wow.
And they do put salt down with that one truck, but again, that truck, it's just looking at the highways. It doesn't go on the back streets or nothing. You can forget about that. You're not getting out.
Right.
So they shut everything down. It comes through, and they're just like, "Yep, here's the deal, guys. Everything. I mean, if it's a grocery store, if it's Best Buy, Instacart, all those places, nobody is open.
Wow.
It is a complete ghost town."
Wow, that's kind of crazy. Oh man. Oh wow, that is kind of that would suck kind of if you weren't prepared. You know what I mean? I mean, you have a family, so you guys are have to keep the kids going and have all the food in the house and everything like that. So that's a plus, but I couldn't even imagine being a single guy who like relies on the pizza guy or something to come by and drop something off. You can come to the shop and make your own pizza. It will only charge, won't charge you delivery prices or whatever. It's just kind of silly. What's happening to Andy Oltman from Thrash Metal Studio? Don't forget to go over there and subscribe to Andy. He does a lot of really cool stuff with his gear, and he's saying hello. Hey, what's happening, guys? Spencer Singer is in the chat. What's happening, Spencer? Drummer for Endless Rain. Now, the song that we played before we started here was "Execute the Mandate" from your latest release, Time of Tyrants. Correct?
Correct. Yep, that is correct. Yep.
Awesome, dude. And I was telling you this before we started, dude. That I really enjoy. I enjoy this album a lot. It seemed like you guys really were firing on all cylinders to me, and the stuff you guys were coming up with, man, and your experiment with actual singing and vocals and doing. I mean, this wasn't all hard, dude. It wasn't all your heavy stuff. You were, I mean, not that that the singing stuff wasn't heavy. You did a great job with it, dude. It was a good mixture, and it felt natural in its you know, in its execute, I guess, you know, as you were you're doing it. It sounds fantastic. Now, I know with the moving, it would have been really difficult for you guys to keep this band going, and I know. Mike, yourself, I mean, you basically started this band and bled, you know, lived and bled and built this band from nothing through multiple lineups. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, you know, just before this particular release, I felt like you found the right guys to push this project forward. And the last time I saw you at the Minnesota Music Cafe, you guys brought your own lights. You brought the smoke machines. Visually, you guys really, really looked fantastic. And I caught a lot of, you know, a few really amazing shots at that club. And dude, I sat in the pit watching you guys and just going, yeah, these guys are really pushing forward. Now, with the move, and obviously you have to do this thing for your family and for the health and betterment of your family, and you know, nobody wants to lose the love of their life and their children for a band. But how did this all happen? Like, what made you guys decide to just call it quits and not do it remotely? Or, you know, I mean, is that a possibility still, or is that just kind of out of it?
So that's a great question. I think that's what on everybody's mind is, especially that's listening right now, you know. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first, you know, Matt and Spencer are unbelievable musicians to work with, absolutely through and through. The things that I know I threw at them, that they threw at me, like we had a chemistry that was absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best ones I've ever been a part of. And you know, that being said, you know, again, they were very flexible. When the idea came up, you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. You know, it's a challenge to, hey, we used to meet up weekly and practice together, right? We used to, you know, go hang out, you know, if someone needs someone a shoulder or whatever, you know, type of thing. And in fact, Spencer and I went to the same church, and I joined a church band, and I played bass and he played drums for church. There was a period in that as well, you know, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, hey, Mike's moving. Okay, how are we going to do that? Can we do that? Is that an option? And everything on paper, everything always sounds great on paper, right? You put it down, you say, hey, you know, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have weekly check-ins. We're going to go on tour. We're going to go 2 weeks minimum, you know, maybe more if we can, you know, if we can push it. But then you start talking about PTO, time off, you know, all that type of stuff from family and whatnot, and how that factors into it. So you're like, okay, well, I can't go crazy. Would love to go crazy. Can't go crazy. So you know, but you kind of, again, you put it on paper and you say, okay, we can hit a couple of tours each year, right? And get out there and keep writing music. We can do it remote. We have our own studios. Everything was set up. You know, we had our own in-ear monitor systems, everything. So they have a studio set up at their practice space. I have a studio up at mine, so we could record. We could do everything we needed to remotely, you know. So again, everything on paper looked great. However, there was one thing that we didn't anticipate, and that simply was where the music scene kind of is right now on a national standpoint. You know, with me moving out here, I thought, you know what, you know, I have enough connections. I have enough venues that I know of that I can put and string together a couple of dates, you know, 2 weeks, not asking for a lot here, right? And so I reached out to everybody. I spent months reaching out to venues, to promoters, to fans, you know, people I knew in states, you know, on a personal level, and said, look, I will play, you know, in your garage. I will play, you know, wherever, you know, on a street corner if need be. But we need to stop here in Florida on a Tuesday night. Can you host us, right? And I couldn't get anything on paper. I got the MMC, you know, because Karen's amazing, and you know, and I love working with her and the MMC. She was the first one that said, you can have any date on the calendar that you want. Just let me know and I'll book it for you. So I greatly appreciate that. But aside from that, that was it. That was the only place I could get anyone to confirm. Everybody else, those who actually answered back, were like, yeah, nope, sorry, we're holding out for either nationals or just because of the COVID, we're not going to take anybody on right now for a tour on any date. And I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Some venues won't even have shows on day of the week. You have to do. It's like, well, we only do it on Saturdays. And these are bigger venues too. These aren't just like mom and pa's bar on the side of the corner type places either. So, which I did also reach out to. So essentially, long story short, we couldn't get a string of dates on the calendar that worked for a tour, and Endless Rain had entered a different phase in its life when Spencer and Matt joined the project. We, Greg, to your point, we tried taking it up a notch musically. We wanted to take our performance up a notch as well. So adding the light show, having everything synced in there, having in-ear monitors, all that stuff. We were like, we want to do this right, and so we made all this investment, and then we came to it and we said, okay, we bit down, we struggled through COVID, for the first year and a half or more. I mean, I lose track of time now with COVID.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. Now, as a local guy and kind of keeping my ear to the local scene for the most part a lot, as far as bands come and go and whatnot. Now, you guys stayed busy through COVID, right? You guys were writing and creating through this whole thing. Like, you guys didn't slow down. There isn't a lot of bands that can truly say that. There's a lot of bands that are like, yeah, we may have gotten together and practiced a couple times. They weren't writing a lot of music. I mean, there are a lot of bands that were, but I'm saying you guys were staying busy. You guys were releasing things in this whole pandemic. Why?
Correct.
Why? I mean, I get the touring thing, but why not keep creating together? Like you guys had a solid thing. I mean, it's with what you're saying, everything was lined up. I just don't know, and what would make you guys just like totally quit?
Well, and this is probably going to infuriate you even more. We had over another full-length album. We had probably, we had almost up to 2 albums written at this stage as well of material. And I'm talking like really, really good material. I can't think of a lot of times in my music career where I would sit down and go, look, I can go to the drawing board and I can go through each one of these individually and pick the best ones to put on the next album. And I'm telling you, these were good hit songs. They were some of the best work I have ever done in my music career. And I can't speak on behalf of Matt and Spencer, but I mean, based on what they were feeling, they felt the same way about it. And so the music was just absolutely fantastic. But, to your point, with the new change, with me being not in Minnesota, with me being in North Carolina, it added a different challenge than we had before during COVID. Because at least during COVID, when I was in Minnesota, we could meet up, weekly. We could jam the songs. You could feel it, But with me out here, it was, well, we're a studio project, and maybe we can see each other once, twice, 3 times a year, depending on if we get on a festival or something like that. And then at that point, we were like, but that's also not really what we wanted to do. That's not what anybody wanted to do when we joined and where we were going with the new direction, right? We wanted to be hitting it. We wanted to be touring. We wanted to be in front of our fans. We wanted to be performing. That's what drove us, and maybe doing those shows in 2021, which we didn't do a lot, but we did a couple, really kind of got us a sour taste in our mouth a little bit, I think, on a personal level, where we're like, we want to do more shows, And obviously,
I mean, everybody wanted to do more shows. You know what I'm saying? I honestly, you guys could have done more videos. You guys could, I mean, dude, the caliber material from, Time of Tyrants. And this is what, Andy also said that he couldn't agree more about the local national music scene right now, just to back up a little bit. Spencer said we wrote another album and a half through the pandemic, at least 15 songs, and Matt was also 100%. Matt Rutherford, the guitar player of Endless Rain, is also here in the chat room as well. It seems to me like even the big bands have come up with some sort of ideas of getting their stuff out there. You know what I mean? Like. And I mean, the decision is made. To me, it seems, it's a sad deal because, to see three talented cats creating some of the best material that they'd ever created and I don't know much about Spencer. I got to see at the Music Cafe one time, you know what I mean? And I wasn't able to see you guys at Safety Joe Fest either.
Yes.
But you and Matt, I seen you really leap and bound as a bass player and a vocalist, you know what I mean? Like you're moving up and up. And to see Matt focused in on something, like all of his projects have been fun projects for him. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like Matt, as a guitar player, really hunkered down with you and Spencer together, being that he's friends with Spencer. You guys all, like the cohesiveness of it all seemed so good. It seems like a damn shame for you guys to not make material and at least have it on deck, even if you saw each other 3 times a year at best. Here's the thing, though, man, is that the material's good enough that you could snag some dates and things could have gotten better. You know what I mean? Like, we're in 2022 right now. You've got Omicron going on right now. You've got Minnesota alone with Minneapolis and St. Paul shutting down venue. You know what I mean? You have to have vaccination or your vaccination card or a clear bill of health for 72 hours or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I see it here not getting as open and hopefully this all flattens out, but it just seems such a shame, dude, that you guys aren't continue to do that. And you got I can't I can't change your mind, but I dude, it seems like a damn shame. Let me see. Hold on a second here. Andy says it's been very frustrating trying to perform and to gain fans. It's just where the times have brought us. We've all done online videos and such like that. But for me, I feel like it's slow. That it's slowing down now. Andy, slowing down meaning like the scene itself is slowing down, or the pandemic shit slowing down to where it's opening up a little bit more, because there are shows going on here, and I know it's you're not in Minnesota right now, and I know it's very difficult to have all this material and be ready to get on the road and get things going, but I think you guys were kicking up enough dust to be able to continue through all of this to maybe see maybe not a payday per se, but light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? You guys were on the right path, I thought. Let me see here. Spencer says I recorded more rock versions of Jesus Loves Me than than was most of my recording career until Endless Rain. That's funny. That's
true.
That's good stuff.
But I mean, absolutely talented drummer, though. Absolutely, and honestly, I echo the same thing, and I know Spencer and Matt does as well. It was not a light decision to say that we had to go our separate ways in this case. And again, it, to your point, and to Andy's point, when you say the word slowing down, Minnesota, don't take it for granted when it comes to the metal scene. Really don't. Speaking from experience, I know regionally I've done some shows. I know that, looking at different metal scenes and connecting with people and such there's nothing like Minnesota. You can get, a venue, you can get a club underground, right? You can get an MMC, you can get a lot of different venues. And I know we all, we talk our trash about the Terminal Bar, it's just something that a lot of people do. It's been a special place for me, actually, which is kind of weird. I always would get the pizzas there, which I highly recommend. But honestly, like, we take it for granted. I think the Minnesota metal scene. I mean, we have, we have our dramas, we have our fights, like any family does. That is family. That
Yeah.
is,
Yep.
But I'll be honest with you. I mean, being out here in North Carolina, we don't have that. We don't have what you guys have. We don't have that close connection. We don't have a page. We don't have shows going on all the time. The closest metal scene that I have to me is in Asheville, which is about 7 hours northeast from where I am. And trust me, I looked everywhere to try to find something. But that's the thing though, is again, in Minnesota, you can put a show together almost every week if you wanted to,
So let me ask you this, Mike. Now, what is the closest band that you've jammed with out on the road to your location right now? What is a fellow band in your area within a 4-state area? Are there any bands close to you?
I would say from Pennsylvania, Threat Point would be the closest one.
And how far away is that from you?
So that would be about, let me think here. I believe that's only a 3.5 to, no, it's more than that. It's got to be a 6.5 hour drive because I have to go through West Virginia. Yeah. So yeah, I would say about 6.5 hour drive to 7 hours, about the distance to Asheville.
Okay. So they're about the same, but here's my thing though, is a guy like you who's been kicking around up here for so long, and I feel what you're saying because I went to Colorado for the first time in October of this past year, and I really understand what you're saying about how we take the music scene in the Twin Cities for granted, and we really don't realize how many talented bands and how many talented people are available and around here. Even though there's so many that interchange between band to band, there are some absolutely amazing bands here. But my thing is like, dude, you're a personable enough guy that if you found a venue down there and you started like slowly building something, I honestly believe, dude, you could have something that could sprout up in the middle of nowhere, dude. I mean, if there's no bands to be around, what happens if you start kicking up dust and like bringing a few bands into town to you say it's a military town or like there's a good possibility that something could pop off if you wanted to take the time to do that too. I mean,
yeah, it comes down to opportunity, too. And I think that was part of the issue is, out here, a local scene would be nice to throw one or two folks to get the word out, to spread the word a little bit.
Sure.
And Hooligans is the closest one that will play rock music. Everybody else, it's all country. You get nothing else. Those that, of course, the venues that are still around, because keep that in mind, a lot closed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, so you have to fight against that as well. And, so Hooligans still open. They open up for some of the national acts that come through, like Head P and such, and Saliva. But aside from that, I reached out to that owner and I said, hey, is there any way that I could put something together here? Give me a shot. It could be a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, whatever. And they wanted nothing to do with it, to be honest.
Shit.
So
wow, that's so crazy, man. To me, that seems crazy. I guess they have two types of music: country and Western.
Yeah,
that would be a tough one for me, man. I mean, that's crazy. Matt also Matt Rutherford commented here, and I don't mean to skip by this stuff, guys. I'd like to have a conversation with Mike and still be able to look at this stuff too. It says the cost of doing videos and albums on that level also got hard to keep up without bringing in anything. Got really hard. Yeah, I can imagine, bro. I can imagine, especially to the level and what you guys were doing, like you said, getting your lights together, having your merch together, which you guys always seem to up it every time you came out from one album to the next. Like you had multiple different shirt styles and a good choice for people who saw you guys play, and many times I'd look at your guys' table and you had patches and hats and multiple different shirt designs, long sleeves, short sleeves, and all that. And that's something that needs to be on point. Now, that shit's not cheap. Having a rehearsal space, that's not cheap. Investing money in trailers and RVs and vans and things like that, that is not cheap. I totally understand. But it does not take anything for you guys to be three talented motherfuckers to create that music. And it doesn't take anything other than communication to be able to continue making that good music. And here's the thing is, releasing singles and doing singles at a time, especially when money's hard, and being able to create things. And I know that you guys all have friends in this music scene and around. So I think that it's just a sad situation for me to see this, because I know how talented all three of you guys are. I know how much you guys worked so hard on this band. And like I said, this Time of Tyrants, really, man, listening to it and seeing you guys play at the Minnesota Music Cafe was like, damn, they're really moving ahead, man. And it's just a damn shame, you guys. I'm sorry, man. It's like, and I use this a lot, and I say this to my friends that aren't musicians, okay? To see people work so hard to learn an instrument and to become fluent at an instrument and be able to create with their hands and sing vocally, or to play drums and separate their brain, and then work so hard to create such beautiful things with two other or four other or whatever it is, the size of your band, to see someone put that aside for whatever reason always is like, damn it, you just want to, I don't know. It makes me upset about it. I don't like it, but what am I going to do? You guys had to do what you got to do, and I just want to say I appreciate you guys and the efforts that you guys really did put together. And I hope that maybe there'll be a one-off, or there'll be some sort of talk about continuing to write that music, man, because like I said, I think that album turned out really well for you guys. Now, you sent me some ideas here in topics that we could go through. Now, one of the things that Mike sent me was, does it matter where you record your music? And then in parentheses, he put Signature Tone, Winterland Studios, etc., and others reviewed. Now, Mike, what is your experience with these mentioned or unmentioned studios, and the quality of the stuff coming out of those studios? Does it matter? Does it really push you forward in your fans' eyes, in your peers' eyes? What do you think about that?
So yeah, recording studio is very, very important. Now, a lot of folks, they're starting to do their recordings in their basements, doing it digitally at home, those types of things, which is fine if you have the patience, okay? And I'm going to use the word patience a lot in this, because I think it's very, very important when you're, I know that Matt and Spencer and I, when we were in the recording studio, we have this thing, it's called the red light syndrome, right? And so the stuff through and through. You've been playing it, you've been practicing it. It's new, but you still know it so well that the red light goes on for record, and you go, "Oh, what's the riff again? It's a B, or is it? Oh, yeah, it's a B. Okay, yeah." But again, patience. When you think of a recording studio, think of an engineer, because that's who's going to ultimately make you either sound great or not. And so the recording studio, almost in a sense, kind of doesn't matter in a lot of ways. It's the engineer. If you have a good connect with the engineer, and you can convey specifically what type of sound you're looking for and have that comparable model with you, you should be able to achieve it. If not, then you need to find a different engineer and potentially a different recording studio. Now, for me, I worked with Adam Tucker at Signature Tone Recording, and he was absolutely fantastic. I worked with him through Tomorrow Brings New Blood, both CDs that are released. I worked with him on both of those. Endless Rain recorded 2 of their albums with him, and again, he was absolutely fantastic. He definitely was. Hey, you know what? You got to record it right. You don't record it right. Okay, do it again. Oh, I thought I did that. No. You need to do that again. And having an engineer who demands either perfection or has a way to sugar, coat a little bit what you're doing with studio magic, if you will, is very, very important to get the sound that you're looking for. Now, yeah, exactly. Now, in a lot of ways, when folks go into the recording studio, they're just like, I'm going to plug in, I'm going to have my mean face on, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to hit this stuff as hard as I can. Okay. And that's great. And you can do that. But then what they do is they hit it and they go, my take's done. Okay. So your take's done. You want to double it up and maybe try to do it better. Nope. It's done. They get up and they leave, and you're like, the singer's sitting there, where did Tim go? Oh, he left. He said his part's done, but did he record to a click? No, he didn't record to a click. Okay. What are we going to do? Well, we have to play around it now. Yeah. Well, he changed this part. Well, I don't, so again, a recording studio, and if you're at a good recording studio, the engineer is going to say it too, the whole band should be there, ideally. Especially when you're recording your parts, and not because of the fact that you need to validate whether or not the person's playing their part right, but there might be ideas come up. They come up all the time in the studio, all the time. And again, they may come from the engineer. If you have a really good engineer, they may come up and say, hey, when we recorded at Winterland, we were underneath Josh, and Josh said, hey, you know what, guys, I need you to change this right here. Okay, I know you're playing, you're playing on the 1, but if you go up to 3, it's going to harmonize better with what Mike's doing vocally. And I said, well, maybe you're right, And so Matt and I would look at each other and go, well, let's try it, see what it sounds like. And boom, there it was. It clicked way better, right? So again, having that engineer, having that recording studio, having that connection and patience through this, you can actually create anything anywhere that you want to, but again, it's that patience, understanding that you're going to probably have to play that part another 75 times before it's good, right? And understanding that, and then, listening to the song, listening to the feedback from the engineer, asking the engineer, hey, how does this sound? Is this right? Is it good? And he's like, yeah, or it's a B average. And you're like, well, that's not why I'm paying you. I'm not paying you for B average, right? If I was going to do that, I'd do that at home on my cell phone. I'll record off my cell phone, So again, recording studios are absolutely a great tool to have, because you have an engineer there who's paid there to help you produce the best thing that you can as a band. Right. If you do it at home, you have to be your own self-critic. That's a little bit tougher, right? That can be more of a struggle. But for some people it works. They can sit there and obsess over it. I think Roman's one of the folks that I've worked with in the past. Roman of Graveslave, and honestly, he'll sit there and he'll be like, oh yeah, I have no problem. I'll sit there and just crank it through, do that 1,000 times until it's just the way I want it. Or maybe he wants it to be a sloppy take, which he's done in the past tour. He's like, you know what, I need it to be sloppy, so I'm going to do it this way, and boom, it's done. And I'm like, hey man, you can do that. Me, I'll be sitting there, okay, the amp needs to be at this setting. Wait, hold on, no, the drums.
Right. And that's the thing about an engineer too, is that if you're going to a good studio, right, the engineer is going to be one of those guys that doesn't want a shitty product leaving his studio if he's a good engineer. Again, if you have the rapport with an engineer as well, where they feel like they can give you ideas or say, hey, would you guys be interested in trying that? Now that goes back to the band as well. Like, you have to be willing to take those great ideas and go, okay, and being able to hear them now when someone tells you to do it on the 3 and it sounding better, and you hear it and you're like, yes, or no, man, it sounds good on the 1 and we're going to keep it there. You know what I mean? Because there are many narcissistic fucking, band members out there that will be like, this is the way I wrote it. This is the way it's going to stay. But again, now I've heard some amazing stuff come out of people's home studios. But again, Mike, this is the thing. Now, are you going to be able to take your own ears and give yourself that critical, hear that you're playing it over and over and over again? Do you take the time to set it down for a night, go lay down, come back maybe a day or two later and be critical about it? Or are you going to be like, come back the next day and go, oh, that's good enough? You know what I mean? Like that extra ear can mean the difference by miles, honestly, when it comes to a good engineer and a good studio that does not want you to leave with a shitty product. Let me see here. Andy says, I learned a great deal while recording our album, but man, it's nice to not have to pay a ton of cash away when you could do it yourself. This is true. And I just interviewed two of his band members and saying that they used Andy for doing tracking on some stuff too. Let me see here. Someone says here, paying into the industry helps to keep it alive. This is true, but yet who are you paying into the industry? What is the industry taking from you? You know what I'm saying? Because you're giving your heart and soul into this project and into these things, and you're stimulating the economy by buying, $2,000 amps and, $2,000 guitars and $2,000 in-ear monitors and having all these tools to be able to do this. Now, I think paying into the industry is separate things all together, because you're paying into the people making your instruments, you're paying into the people recording your albums, you're paying into the people reproducing your albums and distributing, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of paying in there. So that's one hell of a bill to continue to pay. Matt says, love you guys. I feel that we are not done by a long shot. May end up in different projects, but still, I got a lot to give with all three of us. Nothing but love, peeps. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate that, and I think everybody else appreciates that as well. And being optimistic about you guys just possibly doing something more would that's good enough for me. I'll hold on to that, Matt, for you, okay, buddy? And then when I see you, I'll kiss it on the side of your cheek. Thrash Metal Studios, Andy says, there is no industry anymore. Apple Music and Spotify killed it. I kind of agree with you on that one too, man. But also,
does people do Tidal? Like Tidal, is that was a thing for a bit, right? And then it is anyone have a subscription to Tidal?
I don't know. That's a good question. What better person to pick apart your mix than members of the band? Yeah, that is good. By playing it tightly, yes, I agree with you. But to have an engineer to tweak it to make it sound the best that it can, and having a ear outside of the collective to be very critical about the things that now let me throw this at you though. I worked with Dave Ellefson on a project with Dale Steele, who used to be in Give back in the day. I don't know if you know Give or not, Mike, but he started a project called Numb for a little while in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they won a contest for David Ellefson to come into town. And I watched him put this band on a metronome and make the drummer change the way he played. And him taking the time with this drummer made him such a better drummer. There were certain parts that the guitar player and the bass player were playing that when it got to a certain part in their chorus, it muddled the sound more than it did. Now, Mike made an example as well by saying someone suggesting to play it on the third instead of the first by, the harmonization and making that sound cohesive there. To me, that sounds like a critical ear that would help you along more so than going, yeah, dude, that sounds great. because you're so accustomed and so acclimated to how your sound is, right? Yeah, you're going to be critical of how you play through each other. And yeah, you could force somebody to do multiple takes, but does that person have a subjective ear to be able to pull it apart? Andy also says, I'm a firm believer in tracking to a click, for sure. Not only does it make the band tighter, but edits and are easier to, edits are easier. Yeah, I agree with you. And now there was another subject that you threw in here too, gear. Now we kind of talked about you guys, really putting some money into the gear that you guys, dude. Your sound completely changed in pre-pandemic, into the pandemic, and then just peeking your nose through the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys put a lot into your gear. Tell me what it is and your opinion on gear and having the right gear.
So yeah, for gear specifically, really think about the things that irk you the most on stage. And a lot of bands that I've been in, and a lot of things that I've heard from other bands that play, even just local shows, whether, again, Terminal Bar, Club Underground, any of those places, just regular things. A lot of people say, man, gosh, I felt like I was playing on an island. Like I couldn't hear the kick. I heard too much guitar. I heard, no bass. The vocals, I don't even think he showed up. I'm pretty sure he wasn't here during loading anyway. And that is a constant thing that you hear a lot from people. And so obviously the thing that you think about is you go, okay, well, what about, and I know bands, they bring this up, and there's always that one guy that's like, hey, have we thought about in-ears? And then everyone's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I know, I understand in-ears, but I don't even know where to start with in-ears, right? It's such a crazy concept that you'd be able to somehow have a pack, hear everything in there, and do all this adjusting and be able to hear it live. Like, how am I going to set that up live every time I do a show? There's no way. There's no time. There's no, I don't even know where to begin. So my biggest recommendation, especially from a gear standpoint, and whether you are a local band or, again, you are, Slipknot, in-ear monitors are an absolute essential in my opinion. For
the next level, though, right? I mean,
your next level. I'll be honest with you, Greg. There's how I got hooked on in-ears wasn't even in metal music. It was church. Okay. Church services, they use in-ear monitors, right? And that's when I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can control everything. I need more kick. Okay, I take my cell phone, click. Oh, look at that, I got the kick now. I can hear it. I need more click. Oh, I can have click live. Oh, well, okay, cool. Let's increase the volume on the click so I can hear that over everything else. You have your own individual mix of whatever you need to stay on, and that was one of the secrets to our success in Endless Rain when we played live shows. Was we had our in-ear monitors in the entire time. And so we had the click, we had the cues, we had our mix that we wanted to hear. I wanted a little bit more bass and vocals in mine, Matt wanted more of the drums in his, right? And his guitar up above everything else, so he could hear exactly how it's sounding. And we were able to create those individual mixes and play them. And the setup, oh my gosh, the setup is so easy. You plug and go. That's it. You don't have to worry. You don't have to adjust it every time. You set it, it's always static. So once you get there, you just plug it straight into the outlet. You push the power button on, your in-ears are good to go. It's not, once you get it down, and yes, the setup and the learning process is a little bit of a curve, but once you set it up, it's just simple turn on and go. And it's one of the easiest things. And like I said, it's going to change you. It will absolutely change you on how you play music.
That is the goal of so many folks, and taking that jump is such a, when I was looking at them years ago, it was so much more expensive than they are right now, and there's so many companies. I think there's a couple local companies that actually make the in-ear drivers for the setups here in Minneapolis. They like form
Alclair.
Yeah,
Alclair is one of them. They're I think, is it South? it's either south or north of the cities. I always get messed up, but it's Eau Claire. They're the ones that did ours right here, these custom ones.
Right.
So, and you know, honestly, it was, you have to go to an ear specialist. They take a molding of your ear, which is an interesting process, by the way, if you ever had liquid shot into your ear canals.
Right.
You learn a lot about yourself during that, by the way. You learn quite a bit, you know, and specifically because every ear is different. You know, canals, you think they kind of go straight back. Well, if your name's Matt Rutherford, they do. But for those of us who are not Matt Rutherford, mine kind of actually go up like at a 90-degree angle. And again, you don't know this about yourself until they shoot the stuff into your ear and they pull out the mold and they say, this is what the inside of your ear canal looks like. And it's not you know, a painful process or anything like that. In fact, it's actually really cheap to get those molds done. I think it was like maybe $40.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's nothing. You know, and then you go to Eau Claire, and you go to this place. You take your molds and you say, okay, I'm here to get the custom drivers made, right? And so they're like, okay, cool. Well, here's a wall. You get to choose which one you want, and each driver, obviously, the more drivers you get, the more expensive it gets. But you also have to decide, you know, do you want flat response? Do you want more bass heavy and vocal heavy, things that are geared towards that? They have so many options, and they let you try all of it. And you kind of pick what you want. Now, mine, I went for a more expensive model. So for mine, I ended up dropping around $800 for mine. But Matt found a pair that he absolutely loved that were flat response. I think he paid like around maybe $400 or $500 for his that he made. And again, once you get these things, that's it. You don't need to get another pair. You're good, you know, for life. And they fit your ear perfectly because they're molded for your ears.
Now, how about modules and like the brain for the modules? Because you've got a wireless pack on you that connects to your drivers. But what are the now I've seen some that are connected to your phone Bluetooth wise or Wi-Fi somehow, and then does it go to a main motherboard or something?
Yeah, so you got two options. So the monitor itself, and here I'll kind of put this up if you can kind of see it. I don't know, maybe it doesn't show up too well, but it's a Shure P3RA. Yeah. And honestly, that hooks up to a PSM 300 transmitter. So what that is that just simply that's your pack. Okay. Yeah. And your pack is just one piece to the overall system itself, kind of like your in-ears, the custom drivers that you got. So for the Shure PSM 300, you can buy one model of that. Now it's about $800, but here's the thing is that you can actually have two packs off of that same receiver. Oh, so that saves you some money, right? So rather than you say, okay, well, there's 4 people in the band, so let's get 2 receivers, so that'd be $1,600 total, but that's it then. Then you're good, and everyone's connected if you buy another pack, you know. Right. Now from there, what you can do is you have a couple options that you can do after you get this Shure setup. If you get that, or you get the Sennheiser, they're also really good. And that is you can either go sort of this Bluetooth idea concept of digital, or you can kind of go analog in a way. And what I mean by that is you can connect these things directly into a mixing board that has the outputs, right? So we had a mixing board because we just wanted to make sure that if we were to any venue and for some reason there wasn't internet, because a lot of these packs will use internet to actually translate and connect to your pack and then connect to your phone, and then you can use your phone sort of as a pack. Yeah. But we just got a straight up mixing board, and we put each mix individually and channeled each of those on the mixing board to the packs respectfully. Right. So that's how we did it. Again, it was something that was so easy. It was plug and play. Most of our stuff we went direct to the board. So you think of, hey, I got an amp and I got a 4x12, and you have to sit there and lug in, put the thing up against the speaker there, the microphone. You're like, okay, good, I got it. Okay, now I gotta go adjust the board and do all this. Well, no, we just skipped that part. We went straight and just went completely into the board. So it was funny because at the MMC, when you saw us there, I'm lugging up this big old 8x10 huge Mark bass thing and throwing it on the stage, and my back's going out, and I'm like, oh god, that was terrible. And I never plugged the damn thing in. I didn't even use it. And Matt's up there and he's got 4x12s that he's throwing on the stage and throwing this huge rack on top of it. It's all looking pretty and everything, and he didn't use a single one of those speakers.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, all digital.
That's so crazy. We got a lot of people talking in here, and I wanted to kind of get to some of these. This is an interesting thing about the industry that Kluth was saying here. It says DAWs are killing the industry by enabling everyone or anyone to record their music. And as a result, there are more bad productions than ever, which I could see that in a point. Most guys that have a DAW, DAW, which is a recording system, are guessing at best. They are not engineers. Yes, I agree with you there. Matt says, people will hate me for this, but line 6 saved Endless Rain. And then let me see here. Andy says, "Man, I wonder if I'm guessing then." Yep, because I'm not a schooled engineer, but I'm teaching myself the on how to do it. Oh, okay, to make a lot. I take a lot of pride into it. Now, see, Andy, I can see you being one of those guys that does take a lot of pride in learning this stuff. And like Mike said, that's one of the things when it comes to recording this stuff. You have to be the guy who's disciplined enough. You have to have the patience. You have to have the ability to learn like that. Now, you're a mechanic, not only a mechanic, but you love tinkering with your electronics and your guitars and putting your own pickups in and revamping your stuff and hot rodding them. Now, the average guy who just picked up the thing, a lot of times isn't going to take the time other than to push record to do a lot of that. And that goes back to what Kluth is saying as well, as far as, bad recordings and things come out. And then Andy also says, I had custom hearing protection that actually helped me with hearing my vocals at the North Star, at the North Star bar. And he said, they look like a dick when I pull them out of my ear. And then Matt comes in and says, me and Mike got tag teamed by the in ear, but by a hot blonde that day. Oh, he's talking about when you guys got your ears done.
Yep. Oh man, yeah. No, we sure did. That was an interesting experience. Like I said, you learn a lot about yourself in that. Oh, Matt.
In the process of getting your ears dialed in and penetrated by someone else.
Oh yeah. And to his point, a hot blonde, and we had to bite down on this block. So they give you, it's a lot smaller than this thing here is, but basically you put that in your mouth and you have to hold that open while she injects it into your ear. So
does it does it adjust your jaw enough to the proper point to open it up in your ear more or something like that?
Yep. And that way, again, it just kind of helps with that mold to make sure it can get all the way up there. Because I guess if your mouth is completely shut, the solution kind of actually starts to doesn't go up as far as it should.
Oh, I gotcha.
And that, I think that's the biggest piece. Not every single ear mold, I think, needs to have the block. But for Al Claire specifically, that was one of the things that they required was like you have to have the block, and they have to inject as far as they can. And usually, these things you don't have to go very far.
Right.
I think it's like maybe of a quarter of an inch from the actual mold itself.
Right.
But our mold went all the way up, like it was basically to the brain cavity by the time she pulled it out. So way more than they needed, but we got it done. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me see here. So we kind of did cover the rise in the fall of Endless Rain. Now you kind of wanted to touch on social media and how or the benefits or the pros and cons of social media for a person in their band.
Yeah, and this topic I want to put on there because, for some people, I think it's good to hear this because a lot of us, I think, being in a band is a responsibility. It's a lot of fun. You get with a couple of guys, you do a couple of things, and Will Marvelous knows this topic very well as well. And me and him have had talks about this. But social media today is a lot different than it was when it was first launched. Everybody was, hey, this is so neat. I can create events and I can do this and everyone's going to love me. And then you go to social media today, which for the most part is, being dominated to a certain degree by cancel culture, right? And some of that stuff is good, right? I mean, and some of that stuff is good. I'm not saying that all cancel culture is bad. I mean, there are definitely times where I think that there is a benefit behind it, especially when, you think of harm and hurt to other people. But honestly, you have to be careful what you say on social media, because you got to keep in mind it's not just your individual account that you're saying this on.
Right.
You are representing the band on your social media platform, whether you know it or not. Okay, because I know, and I can tell you, I've seen it a million times the last decade. I'll see somebody say something on social media. It could be something like, I'm the greatest musician of all time and everybody else sucks. Okay. And maybe it's not even music related. Maybe it's, I hate this person because what they owe me money and blah, 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 blah. And they bring this drama out.
Yes.
Right? And in fact, a lot of it's politics too. Let's just say that. Okay. Politics gets brought online. And you know what people do? They go to your page. Okay. When they see your response, they go to your page and they look immediately into your affiliations. And what they do is they see it. They go, oh, okay. So this guy works at so-and-so. Okay. Yeah. And, oh, he's part of a band. Oh, I wonder if his band knows that he's going out and saying this type of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and go straight to the band with this. And they'll message the band page and say, hey, did you know that your bassist said this, and said this and was part of this forum and did this, and they'll take screenshots and everything. And then if they're not satisfied with that, then they go up a next level, which is they cancel out the whole band. It's not just the person, right? The person's, that's step one. They want to hurt you. And they're going to if they disagree with you on social media. So again, my biggest thing with it is take it very, very smart, if you will, to what you post. Because if you're part of a band and you list that on social media that you're part of a band, understand the audience, right? If there's people on your page who maybe don't like, music or don't like you being a part of what have you, maybe it's better not to have, post music stuff on your that social media account. Maybe create another one. I know myself, I had two separate accounts and still do, right? I have the Mike Bloodfist, and then I have my personal account that I have, pictures of my family on and stuff like that, right? Stuff that, and I keep those lives and I try to keep them separate because again, there are people out there who they're not going to get it. They're going to take it the wrong way, and they're going to cause a lot more headaches for you down the road,
right, including
potentially the end of your band. Because I mean, how many times have we seen bands break up because of girlfriends who sleep with other band members, or women? One of the top reasons that bands break up, money. That's another reason that bands break up, right? Politics, different types of things. You see it all the time. And again, just be cautious when you're out there, when you're posting things. Really think about it. Think about again, representing the band. If you were to post that on your band page today, would that be smart? And if the answer is no, then don't post it on your individual, because people are going to make that correlation for you whether you want to or not.
Right. Yeah, and that I can attest to all of that. In the last 5 years, it just seems to be growing and growing and growing with this stuff. Now, like you said, there's a time and place for that type of canceling, and to me, where I think it's most important is the abuse, the fact of abuse, and that there's proven facts, and that you see black and white right there, that this person committed this. There was a police report filed. There was a victim. There was a perpetrator. There was things like that. Now that to me is something where it needs to be pursued, and it needs to be like known across the board as well, as far as like, now this is something that happens with me in the podcast. Now I'm friends with a lot of people. I try to be friends with as many people as I possibly can, and I try to take them for what they are, who they are, how they treat me as a person, because I am not Mike Bloodfist, and Mike Bloodfist is not me, right? But if Mike Bloodfist says he had a an issue with someone, but I'm not going to get into that, and I don't need to say who it is. I always say, I want to know, so I know that someone that I'm cool with is having an issue with this person. I want to keep an eye on that person. That's something that I personally like to have in my mind, is if you're going to screw over a friend of mine, someone that treats me well, right? Yeah. What's your quarrel with this person, first of all, and then I kind of weigh it out, right? And I like to know these things because you never, people do turn on each other, and it seems like it gets worse. I had this conversation with some of the guys in Saimathwa, I want to say about a month or two ago, where it was an honest conversation that we had face to face, and we agreed on a lot of things, but we disagreed on a few things. And it was one of those deals where I looked around, and the people that I was sitting with at a booth having this conversation with, I actually looked around like, who outside of this booth is going to hear us talking and having this conversation, because they may not like what we said. They may not like or agree with what we said. And one of the main topics that we had was this thing on social media where even if you have your best intentions and that you're not maliciously attacking anyone or trying to be a complete jerk to someone, right? You're no longer having this conversation with just that person. Even though you may care for each other, you may be friends on social media, you may have the same views in certain aspects, right? When you start having these conversations on social media, it automatically invites, without any sort of knock on the door like, hey, am I allowed to be in this conversation? You're doing it on a public forum, and people will come in and attack you or your friends or your family members or people, and this is what happens too, is you might have an uncle that sees something completely different, but it's your family, right? But they come in, and then people that start attacking your uncle. Now, where do you stand? Okay, nope. I understand where your friends are coming from that are saying, this is my point. You are wrong in what you were thinking, Mr. Uncle, right? So Mr. Uncle is like, F you. They go back and forth. They're attacking each other. Now you're in the middle of it. Now you love your uncle because it's your family, and you can accept to agree to disagree with your family. It doesn't matter. They're still your family, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing where, you look at these people and you go, hey, man, you're attacking my family. It's in an open forum. Now, I think that people are really, since MySpace, since, the start of all of this, it became one of those things where people wanted to upload and regurgitate all these things that they find. You know what I mean? It's like this learning vomit that they throw up on the social media, where they're like, this is what I think, this is how I feel, and then all their opinions come pouring out, right? But yet they don't realize that they're doing this daily and putting their things out there that is far too personal, and eventually you're going to run into a group of people that don't agree with what you say, and they're going to go back through your entire history of what you're doing, and like you said, they're going to categorize you. They're going to call you a racist because you have certain views, or that you agree with certain things and you don't agree. And this is what a lot of people find, Mike, when it comes to being openly religious. You know what I'm saying? Like the persecution of people that aren't religious or satanic or the opposite of each other. Like you can't be a Christian, or you can't believe in or have the faith that you have, because we're going to make fun of you for it. And the same reason that they have, religious freedom. You know what I'm saying? It's two people pointing fingers at each other. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying. And here's something that our old school mentality was before social media, and me being somewhat a lot of times the leader of the bands that I played in, I may not have led the creative process of it, but I was always the mouthpiece or the person talking to the venues or trying to book the shows. But this is something that I found telling my guys was very important to say was, if you don't like this band, keep it to your fucking self.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come to the studio.
Yeah.
Say what you feel inside the studio, where no one else can hear you. You don't stay in the venue and talk like a chucklehead out the side of your neck, making enemies with all of their friends and family and everybody there to see that band, right? And then when you go to play a show, and like I said to you, if someone has a problem with Mike, you have a problem with them, and I go, well, what happened? And you go, well, I don't really want to get into it. It's not your fight. But this is what happened, right?
Yep. And honestly, to your point, like, it's a natural response to want to compare what because everyone feels their band's the best band in the world, and it is everyone's band's the best, but and I get that urge that you want to compare you against everybody else you play with.
Sure.
And that's fine. You can do that, and you can have your opinions on, oh, you know what, maybe if the guitar was down a little bit more, or you know what, they all play in standard tuning, I wonder if they bridged beyond that, would it sound better, right? Like, that's all great and dandy and such, but and those are good conversations to have, but at the same time, just make sure that you're not being the person that's showing up there and be like,
these guys suck.
they just suck. Yeah. You know what? They're terrible. Why are they a band? Yeah. Why are they even together? Yeah. Like, wait, they got on this show? Wait, how did they get on this show? Yeah. They shouldn't be here.
Who did they pay to get on this?
How many times have you heard that? Yeah. How many times? Right?
A million times.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, and Andy points out something. He said, I've been jumped all over with my past posts and gave up. He said, we can't change people's minds unless they actually agree with our views. Social media needs to end. I agree to a point. Yes, I really, really do. I think that people need to realize that they need to step back and kind of look at their own stuff before they start throwing stuff on everyone else. Here's the thing, the competitiveness, and this is what I always used, my like or dislike of what was going on in front of me on stage or behind me on stage after I, or before I played or after I played. I always felt like I needed to be in a fight. This was a fight to me, right? It wasn't the fact that I liked or disliked anybody's band, but if they were kicking ass, that meant I had to get up there in my head and go, I am not going to let these guys make me look like a sucker. You know what I mean? Like, I am going to give it my all. Like, yep. I am going to call out everybody to come and get down with me. You know what I mean? Like, I let the music and the feeling and the emotion talk the shit I was going to talk to anyone. Mm-hmm. Did I get my ass kicked many times by other bands that were better than us? Absolutely. But the feeling that it was I was in competition with these guys, and it was healthy. It was a healthy competition of, dude, if I tell you had a good show, I feel like you had a good show. Whether you messed up a million times, we are all our worst critics. But the fact of the matter is that I can appreciate the fact that you took the time to learn that instrument and you got up there and you played the stuff that you wrote, the stuff that nobody else wrote. You know what I mean? Like, you took the idea from a band in the 70s, a band in the 60s, a band in the 80s, a band in the 90s, and a band in the 2000s, and you combined them into something to make this, right? That, to me, takes the ultimate talent to get up there and do your own shit the way you do it. Period. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta open yourself up too. Yeah. I mean, so when I met Matt Rutherford, Endless Rain, we were starting to get, kind of up to that next level in a weird way, because we started getting backdrops and whatnot. We had a decent following,
right?
And Matt comes up to me. Here's this guy on social media that reaches out to me. Goes, so Mike, you're really good. You're amazing, and in every way. And he's like, I have this band, and it's called Day Zero. And we've been trying to book something, and get something on the calendar, but nobody's giving us a chance. Nobody cares. He's like, is there any way that we could play, just open up a show for you guys in Endless Rain? And, Greg, I was doing a lot of promoting. I was booking, bands and bands I didn't know and stuff like that. I was just trying to make it's part of networking in a way. If you you book other bands onto your gigs and you get a show put together, it's a great way to learn people's names, to see what other bands are out there, and everyone gets a chance then too, so everybody wins when you put together a show. That's why it just made sense to do that. And so I told Matt, I said, yeah, Matt, I'll give you a shot, and so and we show up there to the show, and it's at the Terminal Bar. And it's just 3-band night, and Matt gets there, and he comes in and he's like, "Oh, Mike, thank you so much for this opportunity. You have no idea how much it means to me. You just have no clue, right?" And I'm like, well, geez, here's a guy who is extremely passionate and who respects, the fact of just even getting the opportunity to play the Terminal Bar. Okay,
right.
The Terminal, right?
Yep.
He is absolutely like basically worshiping the ground I step on at that moment, because I gave him the chance. I gave him the opportunity to show up and play what he feels in his soul is the best thing in the world. And in a lot of ways, it's like I gave him the world that night, And so I had him go up second in day 0, and I'll tell you what, they blew me away, because their passion, you can see that on stage, and like you, Greg, Matt's that same way, and I'm speaking on behalf of Matt a little bit here, but when he gets into that show mentality, he gets that fire in his eyes right before he goes on stage. Dang it, we actually had a saying for it, but basically he's just like an angry pacing gorilla.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It is what he is. He is so visioned. He is thinking about every single step he's going to make on stage,
yep.
how he's going to feel, and gorilla pacing. That's what it was. Gorilla pacing is what we call it.
Yep.
And that's just because, to your point, it's a performance. He wants to go out there. He wants to deliver the absolute best thing that he can, and he's going to do it. Yeah. And just like you did, Greg, on stage for many years. Yeah. I've been to a lot of your shows. I absolutely loved when you were on stage. So, and I, again, to see that passion in there, oh my gosh, it is absolutely amazing.
Here's a thing too, man, and you touched on that too, man. Is giving people a shot. Mm-hmm. That's what people need to understand when you do shows, when you're booking your band. Don't play with those same bands over and over again. Reach out to those bands that haven't had a chance to really get into the next club. You know what I mean? Or you may start at the Terminal. You may start at whatever club is available to you. You know what I'm saying? But not knowing how to get into those clubs is like one of the biggest obstacles for any young band. You're like, how the hell do I don't know any of these people, right? Yep. And I know when I started to meet you and started to meet Matt in that kind of whole group, Donnie Darko, and all of those folks on and I don't want to say that end, because it's not like we were in any end. It was like we were all in the scene playing on different corners. You know what I'm saying? There was the house shows in Minneapolis, right? There were the ones that there was a lot of thrash metal going on there. Then there was miscellaneous house shows where there'd be a lot of different lineups, dude. And you guys had a group of folks that you played with. I think let me see here, Volcano Diving being one of those bands. And the things that Brad Grimm had going on. I know you guys did a lot of that stuff. The Day Zero Cats, Donnie Darko. There's damn it, I cannot think of the name right off the top of my head. Randy, Steampunk Randy. What is Randy's band's name? Why can I not think
Karma
of it?
Sutra.
Karma Sutra. Yep. So there's like a handful of groups that you guys would play shows with, and it seemed like eventually we all started clicking in the same thing, especially with Lee's. Like it was like groups of us would come together and put things together at different clubs and support each other and try to. This is how I started here. This is how I kind of work my thing with the podcast. Like if I start to hear murmurs of a band, like, hey, have you heard of this band? Like it may be a friend of a friend of a friend saying, I saw these guys, they were super fun, they're great to party with. Everybody knows Matt Rutherford because he's a streaking madman, you know what I'm saying? But they also know of his stage his performances as well. He's fun to be around. He's fun to party with. He's a good guy. He's not a guy who goes and gets hammered, and he's not a mean drunk by any stretch of the imagination. I've never seen that dude pissed off mean, But here's the thing: is like when you give people those opportunities, man, they make the most of them, and guys like Matt, they appreciate that. That's like that next step for them, man. They all of a sudden the gates have opened and they're ready to run as fast as they can on that track. You know what I mean? And I remember doing that with Necromus and with Sublevel and many of my projects too. I thought that was the best gift you could give someone, is to maybe take a chance. And I when I like with Sublevel, there was people throwing their fucking discs at me all the time. You know what I mean? And it was like, I had stacks and stacks. Dude, I have boxes full of demo tapes that I never had a chance to listen to, dude. You know what I'm saying? But you start to hear this buzz of this band, right? And you go, oh, hey, I got their demo right here. You throw it in and you're like, why am I sleeping on this band? And it opens a whole nother, group of people. You know what I mean? And their crowds. And then you're exposing the bands that you're already working with the bands that you're starting to work with, and everybody starts getting along, and bands start playing with each other, and the scene flourishes more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and to your point too, like you'd be surprised, or maybe actually, Greg, maybe you're not surprised on this because you probably have the same view as I do. But so many bands, like if you're a part of a festival, and you're playing a festival, and a lot of bands, what they'll do is they'll be like, okay, we're gonna show up, we're gonna throw our merch on the table, we're gonna get someone's girlfriend to man the merch, and then we're just gonna go to the bar and drink for a while.
Oh yeah.
And and some of those just they even leave the venue, after loaded, and they just we're not on until 7:30, so we got about 4 hours to kill, so we're gonna go get drunk real quick. And they just go and they show up for their set, but they don't sit there and they don't actually listen to the other bands. They don't watch and see. And either you can always learn something from somebody. Okay, first off, the day that you say that I don't need to watch this band because I'm better than they are, and I'm not going to learn anything from them, is the day that you're the worst, actually, because again, someone always has something to show you or to teach you. And whether that is their performance or how they set up things, or again the people and how they engage with the band on stage, you can always learn something. Okay, then you can add that to your repertoire, or you can also find a new appreciation or respect for the other bands that you're playing with. And to your point, Greg, networking. You find a band, you're like, gosh, you know what, these guys, they sound like they're speed metal, man, and we play speed metal, so I want to be with them, and I want to play shows with them, so I'm going to go up to the guitarist after he's done, and we're going to exchange information, and boom, there you go, you now have a band the next show you can play a show with, right? But a lot of people, they miss on that. They miss it because they think, okay, I'm showing up to a gig, and some of that we talked about guerrilla pacing, right? Like you get into that show mentality. Some bands, they're a little bit newer, and they need that show mentality starts before they even unload the gear.
Right.
And that when I was starting off, I was guilty for that. Yeah. I was absolutely guilty. I showed up to the venue and I'm like, you know what? I'm so stressed. I gotta get this gear on the stage. I gotta hook up all this stuff. I gotta make sure that my strings are good on my guitar. I gotta make sure that I have enough picks. I gotta make sure I got the merch just like you go through this big checklist in your mind, but you miss the moment around you. You miss what's happening around you because you're so laser focused on you and what you need to do to get on stage that you miss it. And I'm going to tell you something. The more you do it and the more comfortable you get with it, the more you're going to realize that whether you show up stressed out of your mind, okay, and running as fast as you can to get things done or not, or whether you walk into that venue with your eyes open and looking around and seeing everything, it's going to happen no matter what. You're going to get on that stage, you're going to play. And whether or not you feel like you need to sit there and pace back and forth for 3.5 hours smoking 3 packs of cigarettes to get ready for show mode, or you sit there at the front of the stage and you're just rocking and enjoying the music, no matter what, when it's your time slot, you're going to get on that stage and you're going to play and you're going to perform. and you really have to think about yourself and think about, what can I gain out of those 3.5 hours being a part of this event, than, just sitting there and not doing anything, right? Because again,
or disconnecting.
It's an opportunity. Yeah. You're disconnecting from it. You really need to be in the moment, look around you, open your eyes, see what's going on, because again, you can gain so much from that, from a networking standpoint, from your performance, from heck, even oh wow, like how they constructed that song, right? They
Right.
went from a speed metal and then they went to a sludgy breakdown. Why don't we have any sludgy breakdowns? You know what? We're going to make a sludgy breakdown. Like, you can get ideas. You just need to open your eyes, listen, and give everybody, and again, even if you don't like the music, okay, you can still learn something. Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's imperative to open your mind when it comes to bands that you're playing. And I think, it is very much like if you have goals that you want to reach or achieve, and you are playing with a caliber of band that you feel are if you feel like they're just as good as you, are you really going to learn from them? Why not shoot for the band that's better than you every single time? Because I think you're going to learn more from feeling that pressure a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna push you to. It's like surrounding yourself with positive people that are striving to be better with every single show that they do. Dan Copy is one of those people that I feel like, reaping Asmodea, every time that you see them or hear them recreate something, they are trying to outdo what they did before. When they play, they are playing 1,000,000 miles an hour, as heavy as they possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Every time.
Yep.
And that to me is where you see somebody like After the Burial, or a band like that has made that, is because they're surrounding themselves with a caliber of above them every single time. You know what I mean? You're striving to be better. And I feel like it's imperative for people to keep on that positive note, and get out there and be around musicians, and be in like, not musicians that go and get messed up at every single show. Like, yeah, it's fun to party when you're at shows, but there's so much time to do that afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, having a few drinks to kind of cut the edge is one thing, but disconnecting completely, but bellying up to the bar, which I'm more than guilty of doing all of this. You know what I'm saying? But
yep.
to be engaged in what's going on around you, especially when it pertains to your band going forward or staying stagnant, is really important to engage into that. And like you said, learn things from all of it, and try to take it in. Because, man, hindsight's 20/20, man. And I've learned more looking back on things that shows I've played and the people that I've played with, thinking to myself, man, I could have done so much more if I would have focused more and been more engaged in this type of stuff. I agree with you 100%, man. You got to take in the experience. It's like having someone that you care about pass away, and then realizing how much you love them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, live in that moment and tell those people that you care about them that you care about them. You know what I'm saying? Like, enjoy that time, whether you're sitting on the couch not saying anything, or reaching over and holding a hand, or shaking a hand, or giving a hug, or any of that, man. You know what I mean? Like, just appreciating the time.
Yeah, and welcome feedback. One of the thing about Dave Holzer did for the longest time, and I really appreciated this, and he didn't obviously do it for just Endless Rain or any other band, but he would go to local shows, and he would sit there, he'd watch every single performance, and what he would do is he would go up, to the musicians afterwards, and he would say, and he would go, have you thought about maybe, doing this, or changing this a little bit, right, from a performance standpoint, or something like that? Like, he would give constructive criticism, and not all bands are comfortable with that. And I understand. And so that sometimes I bet those conversations didn't go so well for Dave on some of those things, but he would come up to me after a show, and he'd be like, man, holy cow, you guys were so freaking tight. Like, I absolutely ever. He'll go, you know what? You were tight. You were amazing. However, where you were on the stage, like how the microphone was placed, you should have been off to the side, because then I could have gotten a better, glimpse of the drummer or something, because you were blocking him the entire show right in front of him, right?
Yeah.
And again, sometimes that stuff can be hard to hear, but again, if you come to it with an open mind and you think about it and you go, yeah, you know what, you're probably right. Next time I will move the microphone, stand over, or not have one, depending on if you don't need one. And then you can get a better shot. Or maybe it's, yeah, you guys are great, you sound great, but you don't move at all on stage. Like,
right.
When I'm in the audience, I want to see the musician running and spitting and doing a backflip and body surfing off the stage. Like, I need to see that, and you go, well, I guess you're probably right. Maybe we stand, too tight and we're just kind of going like this the whole time, and honestly, that was one of the things I was going to bring up before was, when you're comparing yourself to other bands and you're learning things, and I know for me personally, I'm always in a competition with myself first. I want to outdo myself. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that I need to be so freaking technical that I'm playing technical death metal and doing sweep picking like this, with 4 arms and I only got 2. What it means is that when I write something and I compose something, okay, does it capture somebody, are they going to feel the way that I feel, right? Am I actually getting my expression out in this? Because if I'm not, or if a part doesn't make sense, or it confuses people, or it confuses me emotionally when I'm listening back to it, then I missed the mark somewhere, right? And I can do better. And I think a lot of musicians that I've seen in Minnesota, especially, we always seem to be, like you said, our biggest critic. So at that same point, definitely always consider improving yourself. And by improvement, it may not be, well, I need to get better at playing guitar. No, or, I need to practice more, which practicing more, I'll never say is a bad idea. That's always a good thing. It is. And Steven McZanko will know that more than anybody, because he practices more than anybody that I've ever met. I mean, the man never puts down the guitar, but he's awesome. He's an amazing musician for it too, and like I said, but when you're improving yourself, really look and focus on the areas that you can see that need improvement the most. And whether that's songwriting, maybe you have a weakness in there. Like for me, I have issues with choruses. If I'm a guitar player and I'm shredding, I can give you riffs all day. Okay. Great riffs, amazing things. But when it comes to a chorus, I'm just sitting there going like, I don't know what to freaking do here. I have no idea. Everything sounds good. I got the verse, I got the pre-chorus, everything is amazing. And I get to the chorus and I can't come up with it for the life of me. And then Matt Rutherford will come in and go, oh yeah, you just go here. It's just 7/7. Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. And the thing is he completed me in one of the areas that was my weaknesses, and that was a big success for Endless Rain on this previous album.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I think I see the Patrick Swayze ghost behind you. He completes you. He's rubbing the clay deal right behind you. He's the ghost of Matt Rutherford is like behind. Oh yeah. Sorry that I didn't mean to stop you.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean that's what it was though. I mean, yeah. and so he came up with that, and then again, as soon as he got the chorus down, I would come up and be like, okay, cool, let's talk breakdowns. And he'd be like doing this, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool, but now choppier, make it choppier. And then he would do it, and he'd be like, oh my gosh, I think someone just kicked my teeth in. Like this is freaking amazing. Like, and so. Mike, that's another thing.
Let me ask you this though, Mike. Do you feel like people waste a lot of time on people that don't complete them? You know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot of bands where you know that there's angst or like a competition in the band because they come out of the gate like just firing on all cylinders, but you know that there's some sort of bad juju in that band. You know what I'm saying? Like, do people waste more time than they need to dealing with fuckery that they shouldn't? You know what I'm saying? Like this is really fun right now. I'm jamming with these guys, but I don't know if they are the right guys.
Absolutely. So, oh boy, this is a very loaded question for me. So as you know, I've been a band dad for 10 years.
Right.
And so those who aren't familiar with that, but you basically have the one guy that's responsible for everybody. He's the one that picks up the toys after you guys get done playing. He's the one that pays the studio rent. That is your band dad, if you didn't know. Really the thing is that you as a band dad have to manage not just cleaning up toys and things, but relationships, because that's what you are when you're in a band. You're in a marriage essentially with these folks, whether you like it or not. So they come to work, or they come home from school, or they come home from whatever, right? Which home is going to be your practice studio, and they're going to come home and they're going to have something on their shoulder. 9 times out of 10, the drummer's going to show up. He's going to be like, God, you know what? I just don't want to play any music today, guys. It really sucks. And you're going to go, okay, but this is practice. The guitarist is going to come in. He's going to be like, man, you know what? I wrote 6 songs last night. Let's go right now, And you're going to have these two polar opposites probably more often than everybody coming in and going, yeah, let's have a good day today, guys. It's just, it is what it is when you whether you're managing people or you're managing musicians, because that's what it is. You're essentially, as band dad, you're trying to take charge of people's emotions, where they're coming from. And now, to your point, you add a level of complexity to that, because most guitarists are narcissists. It is what it is. It's a thing. I don't know what it is. I think most people who are guitarists would probably agree with me on that statement. But to a certain degree, they are narcissists. And, this is, the guitar's got to be heard in the mix over everything else, okay? And the drums got to be down because I got to hear the guitar, And you hear that a lot in their guitar. They're the ones at the practice where they crank it to 11, right? Because they want to be heard during practice over everything else. Yeah. And the bass player is always getting told, turn it, just unplug it, go, leave, just no.
We don't even like you.
When did he show up?
Yeah.
We kicked him out months ago. And that's, again, that is one of the things that you struggle to manage. Now, my biggest thing is I always try to keep people together because I know that through multiple lineup changes, it's hard to get something concrete down, to understand, to feel, to make that connection, that synergy, to make good music if you keep replacing members, because everyone has their own flavor that they add in. I can teach Matt something on the guitar and I'll say, this is exactly what I'm playing. And I can put it to a click. I can send it to him through there. I can show him a video of it, but he'll take that riff and he'll take everything it tabbed out and all. Okay. And by ear, and he'll play it and it will sound completely different. I saw the same thing with Dan Beto. He did the exact same thing. The player makes the instrument more than the instrument makes the player. Right. And that's the thing with some folks that have been like, oh man, I'm looking for that particular tone.
Yeah,
man. I gotta get that tone.
Yeah, it's the other way around a lot of times where people allow, they don't play the instrument plays them. And you could see those guys on stage where they have no personality, they have no feeling, they have no emotion in their movements because they're looking for that I got to put my foot on the speaker. I've got to have my hands here. I can't, headbang. I can't hair whip anything because I got to be focused on what this guitar is telling me to play. Not me going, hey, guitar, I know where I'm going to play and you're going to like this. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, there's a lot of those out there. A lot of those.
Yeah, and Dan would show up, and he sounds absolutely amazing, right? From a guitarist standpoint, I loved his tone, I loved his technique, and he showed up, and he was playing things out of like, I got this at Music Go Round for $100. It doesn't even have a logo on it. We have no idea where this cab came from, or if it is even a cab. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's like, and I'm going to play it out of a Blue Voodoo here, And he hooks it up and he starts playing. We're like, oh my gosh, that sounds freaking amazing. Yeah. It sounds like you're playing through a Kemper or, like it's just, oh my gosh, there's just all this feeling and everything. And how, and he's like, oh yeah, I just picked it up for like $50 on the side. It's like, wow, holy cow, man.
I can't forget the beautiful horse lord that has jumped in a couple times here. And I looked past him on this one up here, but he said, Mike, you were my daddy. So Horse Lord is in the house. Thank you, Mr. Horse Lord, for joining us, Mr. Trent, and we appreciate you very much. An amazing, talented guy himself, and Andy said one thing in all capitals. He said, "No smiling on stage," which I never agreed with, man. I really, honestly, I'm gonna tell you flat out, like, to be the heaviest band in the entire room is like that facade that all heavy bands have. They're like,
Yep.
they got that. But man, when you look at a guy like Andy who's playing his guitar and he's got his guitar way up high and he's playing his riff and all of a sudden he wigs it back down and he wiggles his beard a little bit and then he looks at you and he smiles, dude, that makes the whole show that much better. I love when a dude can be in full heavy mode and look down and see one of his homeboys like totally thrashing out with his, hands above his head, just totally thrashing out, and look over and go, all right, now I'm cool. I am the heaviest guy in the room right now. You know what I mean?
I was just like that too. It was weird. It was like during the song, who was it? Sasquatch. We would come to the shows and stuff, and he even made a meme about it too. And he's like, Mike Bloodfist is so angry when he's with the microphone. He's just so angry. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, when I'm in the moment, right? Like I'm in the middle of a song and I know a nasty breakdown's coming up. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel it. Like, and the thing is like I'll get into that, but then as soon as that song's done, I just immediately go like, hey guys, how you say? Nice, everyone have a good night.
Yeah,
it's going great. Yeah, you guys drinking? Yeah, okay, cool. I like that. Yeah, I like drinking. It's just like, who's this guy? You go to teddy bear mode in between songs, and then like, okay, and then this next song is called "I'm Gonna Gut Your Throat."
Yeah,
here we go.
Yeah, that's and I think a lot of people give people who listen and play heavy music, you get a bad rap to begin with. When I've said this a million times on this show, I think some of the kindest, most intelligent people that I've ever met in my life play some of the heaviest music that you would ever hear, that your grandma would be going, what is this noise? And then they come over for dinner and they go, hey, you remember that tune that you heard? That was him. And she looks at him and goes, no, that's not. Do you want more cornbread? It's like, yeah, I do. Like, yeah, that's the thing, man. So.
I get that all the time at work. I mean, literally, or even when I moved out here, my next door neighbors, they came over and then we got to introduce to them and everything, and then their kids and our kids and everything, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, it's nice to meet you. And they were like, yeah, I'm and he looked up at the trailer and he's like, oh, are you in a band or something or whatever? Like, yeah, kind of a little bit, yeah, I guess, and he's like, oh, what's the name here? Can you pull up? Do you have any music? Do you have a music video? Or I'm like, well, yeah, sure. So I throw it up on the screen there and I'm like, here's Execute the Mandate, and I show it to him and he's like, oh my, that voice came out of you?
Right.
Like, I mean, I can see it coming out of you.
Yeah.
But there's no way. I'm up there and I'm like in a polo and everything else, and I'm completely dad rocking it out. Right,
yeah.
Look like your sandals and the cargo shorts, right? As Trent would say, the New Balance shoes, Trent Horseload. That's me. That's me to a degree. And he's just like, I could never see that, but yet here I am seeing it. Like I don't even. It's night and day. Like holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, well, how do you scream like that? How's that voice come out of you? And I always tell them, I was like, to be honest, don't really know. There's techniques and there's training and stuff that goes into obviously perfecting it and doing things with it. But honestly, it was just one of those things where I was like, well, I listened to a lot of Lamb of God,
Right.
That got me started, and it was off of like Guitar Hero, and I had the little karaoke, that little cheap ass mic they give you, right? That's white and barely even considered a microphone.
Yeah.
And they're going in there like, okay, now follow the on-screen prompts and then follow the tones and stuff, and it's Randall Blythe, so it's all just all the whole time. So I'm just like, okay, cool, here we go. I'm just gonna grab this, and I'm in my basement and I'm rocking out to it, trying to develop my screaming voice to right. match Randy's.
Yeah.
And then I did it too well at one point, so I had to break away eventually.
Well, that's a goal to have right there, man.
Yeah.
And no slacker when it comes to heavy vocals from Randy Blythe, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, man, I I just want to say thank you for coming in and doing this with me, man. It was very cool, and I was surprised to hear from you because I figured you guys would still be in like getting into layout mode of the land and whatnot. And then when you reached out to me, I was pleasantly surprised, and it's always great to talk to you, Mike, and I appreciate your opinions on all of this stuff. And it's you've ran the gambit when it comes to the music scene here, and playing and getting out and doing it with your band. And if anybody has any questions about how Endless Rain or Mike has conducted his business, man, reach out to him, because Mike is always, every time he's been on the show, has been more than happy to share all the knowledge that he's gained from this journey as being a musician. And I love to see it, to be an old school cat that is an open book for anyone if they ever wanted to know anything from my perspective and my downfalls, the things that I've failed at. I'm always willing to open that book and say, well, this is what we did and that didn't work there, and this is what I feel. It's a long, rough road right now for any musician in this kind of climate with the pandemic going on, with our up in arms with vaccinations, whether you are or whether you're not. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Whatever you feel comfortable doing with you and your family, and you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yes.
a very big preference that people seem to want to divide themselves and everybody else with, much like the political climate that was right before COVID. It was an insane shit show through this whole thing where family members and friends and people are divided right down the middle and want to kill each other over this nonsense. I hope that if you have any questions, please reach out to Mike about this whole thing. I hope things turn around, Mike. I hope that you have a side project or something, recording project that you continue to write, man. Or teach your boys the bass or something that to continue the legacy of it all. I hope that, if Matt and Spencer are still watching, I hope that you guys somehow get together and have a brilliant idea to kind of keep the Endless Rain thing generating more music and possibly doing one-off shows or coming back to Minnesota and throwing one good show, or, whatever it is. I wish you guys all the best. And, man, it's good to speak with you. And if there's anything that I can do, or, if you want to come on at a later date, I would love to have you, just for any purposes, man. If you've got great bands you want to talk about, or anything, man, you just hit me up. We're all a part of this music scene, Mike, whether you're in Minnesota or outside of Minnesota. You've laid some foundation and some roots here, man, and I know the people that are watching and the people that will watch this appreciate what you did here, and appreciate your music and who you are as a person, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that actually quite a bit. So thank you very much.
Where can people hear your music, and any of it? Where can anybody get a hold of something?
So my whole discography, everything that I've been a part of. So Tomorrow Brings New Blood, Endless Rain, they can all be heard on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, literally you name it, it's out there. So and again, the plan is obviously to keep it up there. I know Tomorrow Brings New Blood, they're continuing on. They have a new singer out there as well. I'm not sure if they have any shows coming up quite yet. I know that there were a couple in talks, so definitely worth checking them out if you haven't already. They're absolutely fantastic. And then I know Matt and Spencer, they're working on some new stuff. They're currently writing some music, so I'm thinking that they're probably going to have if things go well, maybe even something to release in the fall as well. And I'll try to make sure that people are aware of that as well, and I'll post it on social media as soon as they have something that's lined up. So obviously, both Matt, Spencer, and I, we're still very, very close. We still call each other and talk and see what's happening and whatnot. So I'll make sure that cascade that over to you guys as well. But other than that, yeah, Going to be probably dabbling into some music myself eventually here, take it slow, and maybe we'll see something from me, in the future here. So, but yeah, other than that, thank you, Greg. I absolutely appreciate you having me come on.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Folks, make sure you check out Endless Rain's, their latest and I guess for the time being, their final release, Time of Tyrants. It's a really, really fucking good album. I've got one more song that I want to play from that album called No More Hope. I try to stay as optimistic as possible when it comes to anything these days, because time is fleeting, and make sure you treat each other well, folks. Make sure that you tell the ones that you love them. Never take one moment for fucking granted. Never ever wish away time, because time is fleeting. And I hope you're good to each other. I hope you guys tune in next week for the podcast. I believe Andy's going to be coming on next week. I think that's what the deal is. Andy, aren't you coming on next week? I'll have to look at my calendar here, but I believe so. If not, it's going to be the following week after that. But I believe, yep, Andy's coming on next week. So the creator, the master of thrash metal studios. Don't forget to go over to his YouTube and subscribe to the Thrash Metal Studio. Andy is a fantastic dude who plays guitar for a band called Hex Vortices, a sweetheart of a dude. He will be on next week. Make sure that you come check it out. Do me a favor, if you were looking to get some screen printing done, you will go to Anti-Broadcasting Incorporated Custom Screen Printing. They're fantastic guys. They use quality materials and they turn it over fast to get you your product right away. Antibroadcasting@gmail.com, 612-836-9488. Tell them Ritual Madness Podcast sent you, and hopefully they'll give you a good deal, because they're sweethearts over there. If you're looking to get tattooed in the next couple months here, they're doing good stuff over at Lowbrow Saints Tattoo Collective in Minneapolis, 612-353-4755, lowbrowsaints@gmail.com. Or you could check out the owner of Lowbrow Saints with me on the Donkey Shows here on Ritual Madness Podcast. Again, we're going to go out to some Endless Rain off their last, at the moment, their last album, Time of Tyrants. This one is called No More Hope. Take a listen, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. Make sure you're good to each other. Peace out.